Right, let's do it here. 1 second, Amy. Okay. Can you see me okay?
We
Yep.
got you.
All
All
good.
right. All right, Jim, as always, before we go into the week, got anything that you want to cover? I know we have a big topic to cover today, but big announcement, re-announcement, but anything in your world that you want to share?
Uh, Not really. It's kind of business as usual. End of the month, going on the holiday weekend. So a little slow this week overall, but
Okay.
um, busy at work. The team is doing a lot of great things, and the I know it doesn't mean a lot to the folks necessarily on this call, with maybe exception of a few, but we've got a big project on right now to expand a data center into Germany. So we'll cover the EU.
Okay.
So I'm not sure a lot of people are aware of that. It's certainly taken a lot of engineering time and resource. But we're getting to the end of that project, which will free up a bunch of resources to continue on with the rest of the roadmap the rest of the year. But it's exciting to be able to deliver our European partners exactly what they've been looking for from us.
That's awesome. Congrats on that.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and I'll put a kudos in for Liron and the team to second Jim's comment that yes, we're expanding into the EU via Frankfurt, but more importantly, we've taken the time to create the infrastructure and processes, so now we'll be able to spool up data center nodes anywhere around the globe very, very quickly. So it's going to definitely help us advance for our international partners. And I know most everyone on this call is North America, but we have a very growing cadre of international partners, including in Asia Pacific, and we're going to be able to serve them better.
Chip, just unpack that for me a bit. You obviously you're not, it's from a data side. Does it have anything to do with GDPR, or is it more so better?
100%. Yeah,
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
It's all about regional compliance with different data frameworks. And GDPR, we've had customers in the UK and in the EU for a long time. It's a little bit awkward to have to handle those relationships with a data processing agreement, a DPA.
Okay.
But it's manageable. But it's the scale of it has grown to such a point where we really needed to move that toward a full data center, and driven by a couple of our largest partners, including Solutions Granted, one of our most valued partners. So, they're experiencing a lot of growth there, and we want to help support it.
So, just curious if I could just unpack that one layer deeper. Let's just say you're an MSP on this call, and you have customers in the EU, Chip, but 90% are in North America. Am I going to be able to, kind of bifurcate which
Yeah.
server now?
Yep.
And
Yeah, you will. For security and separation purposes, you're going to need two different partner instances. One that's dedicated to the EU. I mean, everything else about it, the interface is the same. There's actually no change on the client side, but
Mhm.
on the data and the back end piece, you are going to need a regional partner instance, mostly to maintain security. There's not really much of a technical reason for it, but looking at all the regulation and talking to the partners that are actively seeking this, they wanted to make sure there's a strong firewall between different teams in different regions.
Interesting. Okay. Makes sense. Good. All right. Jim, well, you kick it off here with wins.
Well, we just had a huge win with Andy's comment. That's great. And
That
that's
is
a win for you too, obviously, Andrew, with the cyber call and what you've been able to do to help us build the SASE community here. So kudos. And other than that, you know, we continue to see a lot of really good feedback from folks on some modules that they haven't really been using. Like we're now seeing people start to pick up Unify a lot more than they ever have. Like we're seeing on a weekly basis, 2 to 3% of our partners adding Unify into the mix, which is really important. We've got 95% of all partners are now on Respond. And I think we're at like 65% on Fortify, somewhere in that range. So it's really important for us, and it's always a win when we see our partners adopting more of the modules inside the platform.
And is that being driven by a more, better tenacious or tenacity out of customer success, or is it partners just, willing to, be exploring the product more? What do you see the reason for that, Jim?
I think it's a combination of factors. Certainly, our customer success teams are pushing it with existing partners. Also, every time we bring a new partner on, now we bring about 60 to 70 new partners on a month at this point. It's part of the onboarding checklist.
Okay.
So, that's really important. And then we're certainly emphasizing it a lot.
Okay.
When we're talking to people, either customer success or in the sales process.
Makes sense.
One of the things that, we were talking to a prospect the other day, and he was in trial, and he's like, I've already won. He's like, I'm not even paying you guys yet, and I want a prospect. By showing him the reports. So that was pretty cool.
Interesting. Did he say what reports won it?
The cyber assessment report.
Okay.
So that's the big picture report.
Speaking of big picture, I usually win deals by just showing Leron's picture. So you can try that well out there if you want.
Yeah.
That always
Andrew,
seems.
I wanted to talk about the EU architecture, but was vetoed by Chip and Jim, unfortunately.
Why is that? I think that'd be really interesting.
Yeah. Well, you know what? We'll have a special edition of the Sassy Call at 1 a.m. for those folks that have insomnia and they want to go through the architecture of the EU data center. I'm sure it'll do the trick.
You're going to have to have SASE calls in different continents now to support the different time zones and build the communities.
Yes, that's definitely occurred to us. I was on a call the other day, a prospect call with a guy in Hawaii. And he was like, yeah, I'd love to join that. It's just, 7 a.m. my time. So, yeah, eventually we'll have to get there.
Coffee. Yeah, I mean, come on. How many did you say who's going to carry the boats? Get on the David Goggins train? What's the matter with
you? Yeah, but I know we record this every week, and there's definitely a lot of partners overseas that listen to it after the fact.
Cool. All right. Well, did anyone else out there have some wins this week that they want to share? It's always awesome to hear from. No, sweet, right, Eric? Always great to hear from you guys because partners love to hear from partners. So, anything interesting going on in particular in the business that you guys want to share as a win?
I know from Monday's call that Enrique had a win of the week. He's on vacation in Colorado up in the mountains. So there's his win.
Okay.
And I was just going to say, going through some Microsoft training and having them talk to the elements for a single tenant, what SaaS Alerts does for multi-tenants is just awesome to kind of go, this is taken care of here. And it's less done for less money, right? That's a real enabler.
What was that training? What was the emphasis of that training?
This was all prepping for AI in the cloud and focusing on the security around it. And so just the elements that SaaS Alerts covers that is multi-tenant based. I can't wait till you expand the offering beyond just security.
Thanks, Andy.
That's an interesting comment, Andy.
Yeah.
Well, one that we can't overlook is for Gary Harlem. Gary, did you notice Eric Monroe and the West Coast wearing a Boston hat? So
I think that's wonderful. More people should do it and get on board.
Looks like we are wins like any others. See, Chad finished a project. All right, Chad, awesome. All right, so Jim, let's move on into something that you guys have been working on very diligently, and I hear Ben has been incredibly hard at work getting this together. So do I stop sharing, or how do you want to approach that managed SaaS alerts is here? What do you want to talk about? Do we want to give an update on what we've learned over the past X amount of weeks for onboarding, et cetera? How do you want to approach this?
So I think just to kind of reset for those that maybe aren't fully aware, back in June on this call, we announced that we were launching managed SaaS alerts. And the objective, again, is for those MSPs that don't have the internal resources, right, to take advantage of everything that we do, from Fortify to the to everything that happens in manage, to respond rules, unify. So for those that don't have the resources to do all that, to configure it, to maintain it, and then keep up with all of our additional updates and best practices, managed is here. And Ben Jones, who we promoted to director of our CDC, Cloud Detection Center, he has spent the last couple of months putting this offering together, and we are launching live September 1. We've already onboarded a lot of the folks that pre-signed with us. We now have 72 partners that have signed with us for managed, and we're super excited about it.
It's really
with all that being said, I want to hand it over to Ben so he can actually talk through some of the findings as he's been putting it together, and what folks can expect. If folks on this call aren't signed up and they're interested, we can certainly answer those questions as well.
Jim, just curious, will you, I don't know if this is part of the SaaS alerts, the SASE report, but will there be any type of data points that you guys will collect out of it? And, as compared to, it's kind of interesting now, you almost potentially could have 3 data buckets for research, a completely unmanaged tenant, M365, a partner managed tenant, and then a SaaS alerts managed tenant. It could be some interesting data points about threat, in terms of evasion versus detection, et cetera. Has that been considered at all?
Yeah, look, anytime we have access to more data from our platform, we're going to look at it and see if it's going to be helpful to the community. And every year, as we've added more and more to the platform, we're collecting more data that can be useful.
Yeah,
I've said from the beginning that managed SaaS alerts puts us in a better position to do more for the community, because we're going to become our best customer. And what I mean when I say that is, we're going to understand where some of the deficiencies are within our own platform, because we're leveraging it to the hilt, right, all the way across the board. And it'll be cyclical, where Ben and his team are telling us things that they can and can't do within the platform they wish they could do, and that will fuel additional development cycles for us.
The other thing I would think it would do, and Ben, we'll hand it to you after this, but is inform your onboarding process for just normal partner onboarding, wouldn't it? Because Ben's going to have to make sure that as he onboards a customer or his team, right, that there is a certain number of processes put in place and how he does it, and et cetera, what he automates, et cetera. I would imagine some of that could be then applied or compared to partners that aren't doing it. and or documentation.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
it's no accident, Andrew, that we selected Ben as our onboarding specialist / sales engineer to lead this effort. He developed a lot of those onboarding processes for fresh partners that were brand new. And we borrowed from a lot of that knowledge and expanded it, to build out what Managed SaaS Alerts is going to become and the processes they'll use when they bring someone in. So it's probably a great opportunity to segue Ben right into it.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, we have learned a whole bunch about the way our partners are currently configured and the improvements that we can make. Some of you that have already signed up probably have already realized we've started adding respond rules, and you're getting emails and notifications from us of things that we need to do, things that we need to change. And the biggest thing is just know that we're doing all these changes, but we're not making any changes to your clients' environments. Our rules that are there should be low priority. They should be only set to alert. So our process that we've kind of come up with is, first we get into your environment, we set up our rules, and then we monitor that over the next week to kind of see, where you are, what we can tweak, because everybody's going to be a little different. We can't just apply a standard template and say, hey, this is it, this is going to work, we're never going to have to touch this again. So we'll be making those changes. We'll be meeting with you, and we'll be doing a lot of customization. But Jim is right, and Andrew's right. The things that we have learned have pushed us to make improvements in our platform, and are going to continue to do so. I'm extremely excited because it's going to benefit everybody. We're not going to say, hey, just because you're not managed doesn't mean you don't get access or know how to create these rules. We want everybody to be protected, no matter if you're with managed or not. But if you are, then our team is definitely going to make sure that your environment is set up as best as we can. And like Jim said, it's if there's something that we're missing that our platform just doesn't have, it's going to be a great way for us to go ahead and apply that. So I'm very excited. I'm a much more technical guy than a sales guy, but
no, come on, stop
it.
So if anyone missed, if anyone missed when Jim reviewed all the details a few weeks ago around this, and you want to learn more, Alex just posted in the chat a link to a webinar that we're hosting in a couple of weeks for you to hop on. And of course, if you don't want to wait that long because you're super excited, your account manager can help you too.
Yeah, interesting comment. And by the way, I didn't. Bob, we'll come back to your question on Defender. If you could just make sure we don't forget that, because we're on this managed topic. But interesting comment.
Thank
Chip.
you.
Yeah, of course. Interesting comment from Rich about doing audits. Is that something you guys might, consider doing? Like, you almost have your own AKA secure score, right? Or some type of scoring mechanism. Hey, we did an audit of your SaaS environment and you're at this score, and based on that, we either recommend you do X, Y, and Z, or let us manage it for you. Based on what we're seeing, it probably take you this much time to do it. So anyway, or Ben, have you thought about those types of things?
I think it sounds pretty interesting. What do you think, Chip?
Maybe down the road. I mean, certainly for partners who are part of the Managed SaaS Alerts community, they're choosing to subscribe that way. It's really our team's responsibility to set up and configure their partner instance for optimum tuning, both from tuning out noise and making sure that we're capturing the events correctly, and also making recommendations on the policy side with Fortify. So in a sense, with that group, they're being audited all the time. It's a self-audit. Like there's a standard that we're trying to bring each one of those MSPs that are MSA customers to. And they're really being constantly reviewed and constantly tweaked for what we learn as we go. We probably could pretty easily pass that onto an auditing team. I just have to figure out how we would productize that, how we would, that's auditing is a time consuming process, and we'd have to figure out how we could assign bodies to that and make that work. But it's a very interesting suggestion. And my overall reaction to Rich when he wrote that was, that's really a statement of confidence in us, and I appreciate that in more than you know.
Yeah, it will. The other way I take it too, Chip, it's almost like you wonder, can you, and you may be able to do this today for SaaS Alerts prospects, but with, being able to look at, configuration of M365, you have a, would you like to get assessed, how your tenant looks, based on, Fortify standards and things like that. Did I take the words out of your mouth, Andy? I see you shaking.
No, I see Chad saying, "In Chip we trust." But what I wanted to, if I may, I was going to say, having the ability on a report that would allow us to put in our SaaS alert pricing, and that their Fortify score would be this, and they would save this much money because they don't have to go to E3 or E5 licensing if they're under 300. And with SaaS Alerts, we can accomplish all these tasks that were covered. I think that would be a wonderful value addition to the report process.
There you go, Amy. There's an extension for the pricing configurator.
Can't hear you, Amy.
But anyway, that was something that came up while we were talking about this.
Yeah, I just it's interesting bringing up. I'm glad that Rich brought up, because I think the audit/assessment could go a lot of different ways. Enrique, you're supposed to be on vacation. What are you doing?
It's called a workation, I guess. Hello, guys. So
You're like a camper there?
Yes.
Very cool.
So,
a whole tour, or are you just no? Okay.
Looks like a Windstream.
Very nice.
Yeah, very nice.
I get the small desk. So, quick question. I came in late. Sorry. Going back to security, aren't we, if we have managed services, we should already have the best practices in place with the capabilities of the tool that SaaS Alerts has up to that point. Would that be accurate?
You mean if you're subscribing to Managed SaaS Alerts to that program?
Yes, I came in late and I just saw you, Chip, talking about calculators and adding costs, and that scared me. So I said, okay, wait, let me ask the valid question.
No. That somebody was requesting an audit, and we were trying to figure out what we would bill for it.
Okay.
That's
something that said it wasn't managed.
No, it was not managed. Actually, Enrique, my explanation was that for people who are in managed, that's actually what they're paying for, is for our team to be responsible to configure the environment as best as we can. It doesn't mean that it will always be perfect, because we learn new stuff. We all learn new stuff together, usually from somebody popping up and saying, hey, this happened to me last week. How can we, get together and figure out a way to write a respond rule for it? Or, how can we better track this? So it will never be perfect. Security isn't, but that's the goal for Ben and his team, is to make sure that those people who are subscribing to that service have the best coverage that we can provide.
Yeah. Well, it's a continuous auditing or continuous monitoring process that you have, Chip.
Continuous review. Yep, exactly.
Let's just see this next message real quick. Okay. Line customers. Yeah, exactly, Chad. Can we go to real quick before we go to Bob's question about Defender? Any other things, Jim, you want to hit on with Managed SaaS Alerts before we put a bow on this? In terms of, is it too late if people are, want to jump on board?
Definitely too late. It's definitely not too late. So if people are interested, just reach out to their account manager. And then I would say in a few weeks, right? Like the folks that are on managed would love to get your feedback.
Yeah.
How it's going, right? And what we can be doing better.
That'd be good to do some bring some folks on the SaaS call, Jim, to give feedback.
Yeah. I mean, we got a bunch of folks that, are starting with us on this call. So.
Okay. Fantastic.
Managed. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. Okay. All right. So let's go to Bob, can we go to your question? You had a question on Defender, I believe. Did you not?
You want me to elaborate?
Yeah, go ahead. Because we talked about it a bit.
So we're gonna do the managed SaaS alerts, but we also want to do Defender. And at the last, I don't know, I think it was one of the webinars, I'm not sure which one, I asked the same question, and they were saying that managed SaaS alerts and Defender, you can't do it yet together. Has that changed? So if we go into managed, we can't do Defender yet because it's not integrated yet. And I think the responses, I think it was from Chip even that answered the question. He thought it would be about a month away.
Yep. So there's a little bit of confusion to straighten out in the question, Bob, and that is what is not integrated yet with Defender is Respond. You can't use Defender at this moment inside the Respond system, and that is very close to being resolved. One of the primary ways that Managed SaaS Alerts is going to be supported and configured by our team is through Respond, the creation and updating of Respond rules in order to use our automation to catch issues. And that's where Defender comes into play. So Defender wasn't ready the last time we talked about that to be flowed into Respond, and we're very close to having that capability.
Yeah, but Bob, it's really important to understand that when you're managed, that doesn't preclude you from anything else in the platform.
No, that's what I'm getting at. So we should sign for the beta then, if we're doing managed.
You mean the Defender beta? Absolutely. Yeah. No question.
Okay.
I mean, Liron, when do you feel like we're coming out of beta on Defender? A couple more weeks?
We basically went up 1,000% in terms of Defender connections, right? So we went from a handful to nearly 100. I'd say we're a few weeks away. We just need to collect some additional data and bring in some more significant events before I'm comfortable calling that thing out of beta.
So there you go. I think we made the same plea on the last two calls that I've been on, but I'll make it again. Please, if you have tenants with Defender, Microsoft customers with Defender in your product mix, please bring them in and connect them up to SaaS Alerts, because it's really helping us collect data. The more clients we have, Microsoft tenants we have connected, the faster we can pull in the data we want.
All right.
Thank you.
You got it. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, thanks, Bob, for your question.
Right. Do we have anything else regarding anything regarding just product questions in general, Managed SaaS Alerts, or Defender? Any update on QBO from Eric Monroe?
QBO.
I'll give you one update. Jim and I were just talking about this 2 days ago, but Jim can give you any other update if he so chooses.
I don't know. I could say some stuff here, but so here's the thing. We could do QBO right now. The issue is not with us, it's with Intuit. And part of me, and Chip and I were talking about this the other day, just wants to do it. And if they have a problem with it, they can let us know they have a problem with it. And then all of you, I think, would come to our defense.
QuickBooks Online, Bob.
And what Jim is saying, so this is our discussion. Jim is always pushing the edge, and I'm always trying to be the voice of caution, believe it or not. And the issue is, if we were to do it, it would be a violation of QuickBooks terms of use, and partners that would allow us to do that and connect their tenants up would get in some hot water. Now, it wouldn't be the first time a tech company went out there and just said, hey, look, we're going to go solve a problem that needs to be solved, regardless of what people want, and just did it, and therefore changed the perception of the players who would otherwise be antagonistic. But we just have to really carefully weigh, what we know about QuickBooks cooperation. It's always better to do it with cooperation than without. And this is why we spent a chunk of time getting partners to sign, petitions and rally around the notion of getting better APIs from a bunch of different vendors, but that was really aimed mostly at QuickBooks. And, we provided that information, and they've come back to us through multiple channels and basically said that they just don't see the point. Is that a good paraphrase, Jim?
Yep. Enrique's question, has Intuit ever sued anyone over it? No one's ever done it. So there's nothing, they've never confronted this issue before. We've had inroads to them around this specific issue, and the feedback that we've gotten secondhand is they don't think it's a big enough problem to solve. Which
that'll change.
Which completely blows my mind.
Yeah, that'll change.
Yeah. Andy, you have a question?
I do. It's around plugins that happen to Microsoft 365, Google, and QuickBooks or Intuit. Having SaaS Alerts have the ability to help score the security of a plugin for us, to help us give best practice around those plugins, to help identify when something new is added. I think you do that already. I'm
do that
positive.
already.
And then to help present that as part of an overall security. You have a less than desirable piece. It's it's dropping or it's raising in performance or security. Having that become part of, I was thinking backups for QuickBooks Online was what brought this up, is that as people start to add those services that QuickBooks may not offer on their particular tiering, that's what I was thinking around this in case of like a QuickBooks or some other app that people become dependent on.
I think that's a stretch for us, Andy, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I mean, I like all of your ideas, but this one in particular presents a bit of a problem. When you're talking about rendering an opinion upon the trustworthiness and functional readiness of somebody else's software, there are companies that do that full time, and that's a particular skill set and expertise to be digging into people's code, looking at their coding practices, evaluating, whether or not this is safe. And
I'm thinking more about the API piece and having a way to say, hey, this is you're able to effect validation of it, or I guess I'm trying to find a way to bring that to the SMB space. How do we help validate these plugins are actually okay to use or not okay to use?
It's not necessarily coding practices, but isn't it also about reputation? Doesn't that have a lot to do with it? The more you see one without issues across tenants and across your customer base, that gives us partners more insight to say, yeah, this is actually legitimate and seems to be okay.
I mean, I think that's true, Gary. That's human nature, right? When you see a product gain traction and a lot of people use it and they don't have problems, that sort of an inherent trust can grow. That doesn't mean that it's actually trustworthy and safe. And I think that's what Andy is driving at. Let me give you a for instance. So, way back when we very first started developing relationships with the MSP tools, and we wanted to integrate with ConnectWise. And this is true of several of the products that we've integrated with, not all. They require us to submit our code to an independent third-party agency that reviews it to ensure, essentially, that we're not using our API connection in a nefarious way and extracting data from a partner that we shouldn't, or attempting to do something that would violate their terms of service or anything else. So there are companies out there that do exactly what Andy is talking about. In theory, Microsoft is vetting Microsoft is vetting people who write enterprise apps to drop in to Microsoft. Google also does that. And Google's process is a much bigger pain in the ass than Microsoft is. They are extremely, extremely thorough in terms of how far they made us go to prove that we were a trustworthy software developer and would be allowed to connect in with full authorization to their APIs. So, I see your point, Andy, of a need for a third-party service to do that for everything, but I don't think that's us.
Okay.
At least not at this stage in our development. We'd have to open up a whole new branch of the business to try and tackle
Think
that.
how that would change. Yet again, it would add a whole new dimension to the service offering of an MSP. Can help validate, you got crap in here that was installed by whoever else, and it's still there, and it shouldn't be, that type of thing, right?
Yeah. I think
It'd
you
be
should
easy to identify bad
you should start a
ones.
business, Andy.
I got one already.
Yeah, the You Got Crap business.
There you go.
All right. Just seeing, there's some comments here, just seeing if there's anything we need to address. Okay. All right. All right. Should we move on to our final piece of the call here, Jim?
Yes.
All right. All right. So as usual, Chip and I have banter going back and forth all week long on the latest and greatest in the world of threats and what's happening. And Chip brought this one to my attention, and SolarWinds is back. Chip, you want to kind of this one's you can't make this one up, can you?
Yeah, I mean, just doing my sort of daily security reading. I don't know if I sent this to you on Monday or Tuesday. Up pops that SolarWinds is back in the news with another pretty obvious blunder, leaving hard-coded credentials into one of their help desk products, and it's in the wild and being exploited, and CISA has gotten a hold of it, and there's a CVE up for it, and everyone needs to rush out and hotfix. So I brought it up to you, Andrew, because obviously you have a much bigger community than just this, and I know lots of folks in the MSP universe use SolarWinds, and they may be using this product. So if people didn't see it, I wanted to make sure that they did on both calls.
Yeah, I don't think, luckily for MSPs, this is their help desk, Eric.
Yep. Yep.
I don't, on the margin, I don't think a lot of MSPs are using their web help desk. Thank goodness for MSPs in this case. But of course,
the government is.
Yeah, I was going to say, you nailed it, Andy. The reason CIS is all over this is because the federal government uses a ton of their products. And so yes, so they are back in the news, and with a lovely 9.1 rating on the CVSS severity. So I'm
Given
surprised.
that's happening all with this compliance business with DFARS and CMMC, it's amazing that they still have their certification, isn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting. All right, so but that was just maybe just a tad of a levity, if you will, for if I could call it that. All right, so the
Levity,
next,
as long as you're not a SolarWinds customer. Eric, I copied the URL into the chat so you can read the full article.
Wow.
Yeah, Eric, Chip, levity if you're not. Absolutely. All right, so here's the one I wanted to share with you, Chip, to get your take on. This was I thought was very clever and interesting. So let me kind of walk through it, and then I'll, like, if I could beat it up with you a little bit, Chip, here. So here we have this new, like, I think it's called quishing, which is, using QR codes, right, as a new way in which to entice people or cajole people to do something. So here's this QR code. So this is how we start off. Click on the QR code or scan the QR code. It's bringing what the threat actors are using, and I'll give you some stats on this. I'm not sure, I wasn't really familiar with this Microsoft product, but apparently the threat actors are, and they're using it fairly significantly. There's this product out there called Microsoft Sway. And I'm not sure, is anybody out there using this or any of their clients using it? And it's basically, as it's showing, you can use it, for reports, presentations, and you can actually use this for, publication, right? URLs. So a few things about it. So as I was sharing, Chip, it's this new form of attack, phishing. They leverage the Microsoft Sway infrastructure to host fake pages. Sounds very familiar, right? To a degree of what a threat actor would do. One of the reasons they're using these pages is, again, to keep things in region first and foremost, right? Being a big reason from a detection perspective, from an IP perspective. The other thing is when they do click on it, you're porting your M365 parameters, right, or creds and session token, if you will. Would that be an OAuth the way they're portraying this, Chip, so far? Because we're going machine to machine. Is that how you read this?
It sounds like it. I mean, certainly, I'm not clear, from what we've reviewed here so far, of whether or not this will just automatically take a logged in account that scans that QR code. Let's say your phone is logged in with whatever mail client you use. I'm not sure if it's picking up a token there and pulling you in, or if it's pushing you through the whole process. I mean, either way, it can be dangerous. I'm bringing up that first instance because Ben is actually working in the background now on seeing something very similar to that, which I think we brought this up 2 calls ago, and we still haven't really bottomed it out and confirmed how it's working, but there appears to be a way that people are stealing tokens from local apps and then using the same token in their own local app and getting access mostly to SharePoint, like literally Word. So we're still working on that. I don't know if this is a spin-off of that, or if this then presents them with a set of login, the standard login path where they're entering a username and password and then being challenged for MFA.
Well, I think it does. So let me continue with this. So it's interesting, but what's really interesting, Chip, is the growth, right? And you typically look at the whether it's phishing web, attack, man on the middle, standing up, web pages and things like that. What this is really interesting is that the explosion of use of this, I wouldn't call Microsoft Sway, like everybody knows about Sway, but the threat actors have certainly turned to this platform as a mechanism to stand up these domains, quote unquote, if you will, leveraging the Microsoft cloud. And then
that's an amazing stat, 2,000-fold increase starting in July 2024.
Yeah,
I mean, this is really fresh. Obviously, a hacker group has devised a whole new way to get at their targets. And, to your point, Sway was probably a relatively unused product, and now all of a sudden, voila.
Yeah, again, it's it just, I'm air quoting, it's another living off the land, right? It's a legitimate tool now being used as a means to store nefarious information and sites and things of that nature. And so then they take it a step further. This is really interesting. So to evade static analysis efforts further, they are using Cloudflare's turnstile to hide their URLs. So which is really, really fascinating how they're like leveraging all of these, I would say not like, oh yeah, we're gonna, it's their version of CAPTCHA, if you will, Chip. And so they're using these necessarily not mainstream, like everybody's using them, but using legitimate tools to get around this way. And then, as you're seeing here, using these ways to siphon the creds.
So we need a showdown for QR codes.
Well, there are clearly tools out there, Andy. I'm not sure which detection tools are looking for these types of campaigns, but there certainly are scanners that do. But of course, these guys are always trying to be a step ahead and using a platform to evade it and truncate it. So yes, Chip, here it is. You're seeing that they not only did they see this massive jump in Sway, but look at the increase in Cloudflare. Now, Cloudflare R2 is the equivalent of like a blob, you know, Azure Blob or S3 or something like that. This is Cloudflare's version of it. And look at the growth in the use of this as well. So they're using, like I said, I'm beating this to a horse, but just to your take, get your point, Chip, is looks like a relatively new approach. Again, who knew, when have we heard about using Sway? When have we heard about using Cloudflare Turnstile? And now Cloudflare R2. So it looks like they're looking at less common, probably solutions that are, you know, that detection tools are focused on. That's what I take of this whole. But I wanted to bring it up to you and the team because it looks like a very legitimate way in which a new way, right, of social engineering that's going to be fairly pervasive here.
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising. It's pretty sad, but you know, QR codes I think are still gaining popularity among advertisers and product vendors. Everybody else has the most convenient way to get somebody where you want them to go. And obviously that functionality has been around for a long time, but I've certainly seen a big explosion in it. Look, there's QR codes now on your television that they're encouraging you to pick your phone up and snip at it. There's no reason that one of these guys couldn't slip this into an NBC newscast. So, you know, for people who still watch television, it's pervasive. It's just one more thing that you can't trust anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes back, as it always does, to user training, which is if you have an unsolicited request to use your business credentials to log into something, never, ever do it.
Yeah. And again, I wanted to, you know, also the point, so for all of you listening, I wanted to get this to you. So again, you can use this for lunch and learns, education, whatever you want to do for your customers. I think it's an important thing to let them know, per Chip's last comment. Like, again, the exclamation point here is when you're presented this, you know, place to put in your creds, I don't care what you're doing, don't. And then, you know, obviously sometimes, you know, with some of these man in the middle attacks, they're just going to take the session anyway, but hopefully, you know, they have a SaaS alerts in place to check that for us as well, Chip.
Yeah. It's funny, Andrew, that I didn't send you a different article that I had read this week that was related to this. And I sent it internally to our team in the EU and alerting them to the fact that there's a specific smishing campaign going on, having to do with banking sites, impersonating their banking sites. And it's very, very similar, using a QR code to scan something to win a prize, basically, and takes you to what would otherwise be what you would think is a legitimate login to your banking credentials and, of course, to your banking site. And, of course, what is it doing? It's harvesting your credentials. So, you know, I don't know about everybody else on the call. I never, ever go to my bank anymore through a website. Even though I can check the domain, I only use their native apps on my devices. I refuse to even transact it in a browser anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. So, any questions on chat at all? Okay, no. All right. All right. So the next one I wanted to show, Chip, this is more I wanted to show this, even though this is more of a consumer attack, a threat attack. I wanted to show it to you all because I'd love your thoughts on, could you see applicability for this in business type smishing campaigns? And to your point, Chip, and this is maybe what you're saying about the banking one. So huge increase in tech scams. And again, just good, you know, maybe marketing information here for you to get to your prospects and customers. So this has been incredibly effective. So picture this. How many of you all, maybe Amy, you can just look, but how many of you all, use one of the toll, pass things, or, you ever been in, you're going along and you forget it, or you're in a different vehicle or what have you. But basically they are taking mass numbers of cell phones, Chip, and basically saying, hey, Chip, in your area, Pennsylvania, the dot, you always have the highway, right, is noticing that you owe this on your balance, and to avoid this $50 or $150 penalty, please click here, right, and pay your toll. And it's working incredibly effectively. So I wanted to again share that these smishing campaigns are alive and well. So comments and thoughts on that. Is that similar to the banking one that you kind of were sharing, Chip?
Similar, yeah. And it looks like Enrique's had firsthand experience with this with one of his customers, right down to it being a toll road scam.
So,
yeah, Bob, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I'll put my video on here, just switch locations. So if you click the link, does it credential you? Is that the idea?
I didn't.
Or does it ransomware you?
It possibly could do both, but I think really what it's more probably just a social engineering attempt, if I had to guess, Bob, where it's, it's a stood up website. Probably again, from an IP perspective, they've spun up something locally, like we've just talked about, and you put in your information and they take your money. It possibly is that straightforward, right? Not that sophisticated, because most people are going to take their phone and, hit the URL, pay their bill, and they don't realize, and again, a lot of this time, unfortunately, it's more elderly people, right, these days, or naive people. And think about it en masse. If you're hitting, $5 here, $7 here, and you're doing it thousands of times a day, right? It doesn't take long to make a fair amount of money.
Enrique, can you chime in here? Because you're saying that the ones that you've seen are taking you to a Microsoft login, and you're talking about exactly what Andrew is presenting on the screen here, which is, clearly in a smishing campaign going directly to a phone.
Correct. We've had two customers, actually, sorry, one customer twice and another customer once. One was a FedEx, the other one was a toll road. I'm trying to look for it as we speak. And it looked very, very similar. The only reason it was prevented was because we were blocking Russia with our GeoIP via DNS filtering. So that's what stopped it. Because then I ran it through a whole bunch of other tools, including email tools, and nothing would pick it up because there was really nothing malicious at that point for the site. Trying to find the link to confirm, but I'm almost sure they were leading to Microsoft credential harvesting. I'm trying to remember why.
So they were text messages, right?
There were text messages, yes.
And you guys picked them up because when they clicked on the link, it was going out through an Office network that you were monitoring with tools?
So our DNS solution actually works on the phone as well. So that's what blocked it. And then some of the customers like myself on Mac have SMS on the Mac directly. So when you click on it, it'll go to the computer browser, and same thing.
Yep.
Pretty lazy of them though, right? Chip, to go with a Russia IP, why not go in region? And it would have been a lot easier for them to thwart a lot of detection. My
guess is because they get an awful lot of people that don't have the kind of protection that Enrique, lays down for his customers. I mean, I would say I would guess it's a pretty small percentage of companies that have got a DNS solution that's working all the way down to their mobile devices.
Yeah, fair. That's fair.
Just a guess. So they wouldn't even know it. And the other reason is they don't have to. I mean, look, if any of us were unscrupulous people, we'd be scurrying around tonight and loading up a site that is doing toll impersonation and just taking $10 on a credit card. My God, it's the scam in the book.
Can I chime in a couple other things? So
Yeah,
I've seen this with the courier companies as well. You see that a lot. You see it with the post office companies, in our case, Canada Post in our case, but I also have seen UPS. And the other one I'm always curious about is the ones that just say hi. And they want you to reply back and start a conversation. And I'm just wondering if anyone's ever done that. And then what is the end goal there? If people have seen that, you just get an anonymous text from someone that says hi or how you doing, and you have no idea who they are.
Yeah. Anybody deal with any of those where it, you know, obviously they're looking for engagement, and obviously, Bob, there's been tons of cases. Again, oftentimes, unfortunately, more it's with the elderly where, oh, you know, I'm in this awful situation, and they end up, you know, PayPaling them money. There's all different, you know, it's a lot of really good social engineering. Often is the case.
Well, you keep telling everybody don't reply to anything you don't know, but they don't always listen.
They don't.
Most don't listen.
Andrew, I've got to jump off for 2 o'clock.
All right.
Yeah, me too.
All right, guys.
It was good to see everybody. We'll see you next week.
All right,
Sounds
everyone.
good. Thanks, everybody. Have
Thank
a great
you.
weekend, holiday weekend.
You too.
Bye.